Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on, well, one of business's biggest mysteries. How do companies decide what to charge? It's not just math.
Oh, definitely not. It's psychology, it's strategy, and sometimes, yeah, it's a high-stakes gamble.
Exactly. And for any of you diving into marketing principles, maybe especially those of you at Appalachian State University's College of Business, this stuff is absolutely fundamental.
That's right. We're really getting to the heart of pricing concepts today, drawing straight from that foundational principles of marketing course you're likely taking. Our mission here is to kind of cut through the textbook jargon, give you those aha moments, and show you how these concepts actually play out in the real, sometimes messy world.
Think of this as your shortcut, your way to really understand why something costs what it does and how businesses make those critical decisions. Decisions that can literally make or break some.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you're maybe prepping for an exam or you're just really curious about the economic forces shaping everything around us, let's jump in.
Let's do it.
We'll cover everything from, what price actually signals to how companies duke it out in the market to try to understand what customers truly want, manage their costs.
And navigate that whole complex web of external factors and regulations, too. It's a lot.
It is. Okay, let's start with the absolute basics then. Beyond just a number on a tag, what is price when we talk about a marketing exchange?
Well, price is, it's way more than just the cash changing hands, right? At its core, it's really the value that a buyer gives up to gain the benefits of whatever product or service they're getting. Way back, that was literally bartering, trading a chicken for apples, like you said.
Right.
Today, yeah, it's mostly financial. But for you, the buyer, it's always about this fundamental question. Is the satisfaction, the utility I get from this thing, is it worth the buying power I'm sacrificing? It's like a constant internal calculation.
Okay, I see. And from the marketer's side, why is price such a critical lever? Why is it so important?
Because honestly, it's often the only piece of the marketing mix you can change really quickly. Think about it. You can't just redesign a product overnight, right? Or instantly build a new distribution network or completely rework a whole advertising campaign. That takes time, planning, money.
Sure.
But price, you can adjust it pretty fast, sometimes in minutes, especially online. And that agility, that speed, means it directly impacts your total revenue because profit is just, revenue minus costs.
And revenue is price times quantity sold.
Exactly. Price times quantity sold. So price is the fastest way, often, to influence that bottom line, for better or worse.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting for me. Price also carries this huge psychological weight, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Price isn't just transactional, it's symbolic. It sends signals. A high price, for instance, can scream prestige and quality.
Like those luxury sports cars.
Precisely. Think about custom Aston Martin Valkyries. That eye-watering price tag isn't just about covering manufacturing costs. It's about reinforcing exclusivity, signaling top-tier engineering, maybe even art. People expect something like that to carry a high price. It's part of the appeal. And conversely, a low price can shout bargain. Think about Target's value-focused strategy. It immediately draws in customers who are primarily motivated by saving money. It sets an expectation right away in the customer's mind about what they're getting.
So it frames the whole experience.
It really does.
All right, so businesses are always competing, right? For our attention, our dollars. What's the sort of fundamental difference between competing mainly on price versus using what you call non-price competition?
Right. So with price competition, the battleground is literally the price tag. Simple as that. A marketer focuses on beating or matching competitors' prices. And it offers flexibility, like we said. You can adjust quickly to market shifts or what your rivals are doing.
But there's a downside.
Oh, yeah, a big one. The downside is your competitors can respond just as quickly, and that can easily spark a really dangerous price war.
Ah, the race to the bottom.
Exactly that. These chronic price wars can just severely erode profits for everyone involved. Sometimes nobody really wins in the long run. It just devalues the whole category.
So if price wars are so, destructive, how do brands like Apple, with their iPhone pricing or maybe even a newer direct-to-consumer brand like Away Luggage, how do they manage to often avoid getting dragged into those?
Yeah, good examples. That's where non-price competition really comes into play. These companies, they often intentionally de-emphasize price as the main selling point. Instead, they focus on things like distinctive product features, superior customer service, maybe perceived quality, unique promotions, or even innovative packaging, anything to differentiate their brand.
Okay.
And the huge advantage there is building strong customer loyalty.
Hmm.
If you love your iPhone for its ecosystem and design, right, or your away luggage for its clever compartments and durability,
Mm-hmm.
you're probably much less likely to just jump ship for a slightly cheaper alternative from another brand.
So that differentiation has to be real and valuable.
Absolutely. For non-price competition to actually work, that distinction has to be clear, genuinely valuable to buyers, and ideally, pretty tough for your rivals to copy quickly.
This makes me think of Louis Vuitton. They seem to operate in a whole different pricing universe sometimes.
Oh, Louis Vuitton is a perfect, maybe extreme example of non-price competition. They target that prestige market, ultra-high-priced items, cultivating this incredibly exclusive image, often using celebrity endorsements.
Right.
Their strategy is almost like a pricing pyramid. You've got these super exclusive, astronomically priced items at the very top, maybe custom pieces.
Okay.
Then in the middle, you have highly expensive, but maybe slightly more accessible items, still very high-end. And then interestingly, at the base, you find what they call their prestige products, things that, middle-income consumers might really stretch their budget for to get that LV logo.
And that's where a lot of the volume is.
That's what's fascinating. A huge chunk of their revenue actually comes from that bottom tier of the pyramid. And for a brand like Louis Vuitton, demand can even become, well, we'll talk about elasticity later, but it can behave strangely. Sometimes higher prices increase demand up to a point because it reinforces that elite image. It's a powerful psychological game.
Wow. Okay, so on the complete flip side then, what happens when a company basically has to engage in intense price competition, like, say, CVS in the pharmacy space?
Right. CVS operates in a, frankly, brutally competitive market, especially when you think about prescription medication.
Yeah, a pill is a pill, right?
Pretty much. It's often a homogeneous product. That generic drug is the same no matter where you buy it. And that forces them into fierce price competition. So they lean heavily on sales promotions. You see the in-store discounts, the mail coupons, their extra care card for personalized deals.
Really long receipts.
That chuckles. Yeah, those two. And free shipping for mail order prescriptions. But they also get tough behind the scenes. They aggressively negotiate drug prices with pharmaceutical companies for millions of people through their pharmacy benefit management arm. They'll even drop drugs from their insurance formularies if the prices become, in their view, unaffordable. It's a constant push and pull, demonstrating how, for certain products and markets, value really is about affordability, and price becomes the main battleground.
That makes sense. Okay, so understanding customer demand is obviously crucial for setting prices.
Mm-hmm.
What does a sort of typical demand curve look like? And are there those surprising exceptions, like maybe Louis Vuitton?
Yeah, for most products, it's pretty intuitive. Just like you learn in Econ 101, as the price goes down, the quantity demanded goes up. You picture that classic downward sloping demand curve.
Okay.
But yeah, those prestige products we just discussed, like Louis Vuitton or maybe certain collector's items, they can be the exception. For them, demand might actually increase as prices rise, but only up to a certain point.
Why is that?
Because the higher price itself enhances the perception of exclusivity and status. It's part of the product's appeal. But even for those goods, there's eventually a ceiling, a price point where it just becomes too expensive, even for the most prestige-sensitive buyer, and demand starts to fall off.
Okay, got it. So what about this term price elasticity of demand? It sounds like something really important for anyone building their business acumen, especially those App State students tuning in.
It truly is. It's fundamental. Think of demand like a rubber band. Sure. Think about maybe recreational vehicles, RVs. That's a big discretionary purchase. If the price goes up significantly, a lot of people might easily just delay buying one or buy a used one or go camping instead. Demand is sensitive to price. It's elastic.
Okay, so that's elastic. What if that rubber band is more like a thick, stiff cable? What if demand is inelastic?
Right. If demand is inelastic, that rubber band or cable hardly stretches at all when you tug it. A change in price causes only a small change, or maybe almost no change, in the quantity demanded. And in this case, total revenue actually changes in the same direction as the price. So if you raise your price, your total revenue goes up. If you lower your price, your total revenue goes down.
And what kinds of products have inelastic demand?
Usually essential products with few, or maybe, no, good substitutes. Things like electricity, gasoline in the short term, certain life-saving medicines. People generally need them regardless of moderate price changes. So the less elastic the demand, the more pricing power a seller effectively has.
This brings up an interesting point. We often see gas stations, for example, offering different prices for cash versus credit. Should those prices really differ? Is that about elasticity?
Well, it's partly about cost, which influences the final price. Marketers who accept credit cards have to pay processing fees, right? Typically around 2–3% of the transaction value.
Sure.
So, by offering a discount for cash, they're essentially passing on the savings they get from avoiding those fees. It's less about elasticity directly and more about reflecting the different costs associated with different payment methods.
So the debate is whether the business should just eat that cost.
Exactly. Should marketers just absorb those credit card fees as a normal cost of doing business, making things convenient for customers? Or should customers paying with cash, which is cheaper for the merchant to process, benefit directly from those savings? Legally, offering a cash discount is generally okay if both prices are clearly shown. Direct surcharging for credit cards is sometimes restricted, but discounts are usually fine.
Interesting. How do companies sometimes manage to completely change our expectations about what a product should cost? I'm thinking about Starbucks and coffee here.
Oh, Starbucks is a brilliant case study in shifting what you might call perceived value or maybe even irrational demand. Historically, coffee was, a commodity, a
Yeah.
cheap caffeine fix.
Yeah, diner coffee for a buck.
Exactly. Consumers weren't used to paying $4, $5 or more for a single cup. But Starbucks didn't just sell coffee, did they?
No, they sold an experience.
Precisely. They sold a gourmet treat, an experience, maybe a third place between work and home. They positioned it as a sort of mini luxury, a daily indulgence. They transformed a common beverage into a premium product using all those non-price attributes, the ambiance, the customization, the barista interaction, the brand itself. They essentially re-educated customers on what coffee could be, successfully resetting price expectations and establishing a completely new perceived value.
That's powerful. Okay, so beyond just understanding demand, companies obviously have to wrestle with their own costs. What are the absolute key cost concepts marketers need to grasp to actually set prices that lead to profit?
Right. Costs are the other side of the profit equation. To really get a handle on profitability from a pricing perspective, we typically look at two main approaches: marginal analysis and break-even analysis.
Okay, let's start with marginal analysis.
Okay. With marginal analysis, we really focus on the costs and revenues associated with producing and selling just one more unit.
Mhm.
We break down costs into fixed costs. These are things like your rent, maybe permanent salaries, insurance. They don't change whether you produce one widget or 1,000 widgets, at least within a certain range.
Got it. They're fixed.
Variable costs. These change directly with your production volume. Think raw materials, components, maybe hourly labor directly tied to production. Make more units, variable costs go up.
Makes sense.
Then you have marginal cost, MC. This is the extra cost you incurred to produce just one more unit. And marginal revenue, MR. That's the extra revenue you get from selling just one more unit. The sort of core insight from microeconomics here is that theoretically, you maximize your profit at the point where your marginal cost equals your marginal revenue.
Where MC equals MR.
Exactly. If you produce beyond that point, the cost of making that next unit is actually higher than the revenue you get from selling it, so your overall profit starts to decline.
Okay, I remember that. What about break-even analysis? I definitely recall calculating break-even points in my intro marketing course.
And for very good reason. Break-even analysis is absolutely fundamental. It tells you the point, the number of units, or the total dollar sales, where your total costs exactly equal your total revenue.
So you're not making money, but you're not losing it either.
Precisely. You've broken even. You calculate the break-even point in units by dividing your total fixed costs by the per-unit contribution to fixed costs.
And that contribution is?
That's simply your selling price per unit minus your variable costs per unit. It's how much each unit sold contributes towards covering those fixed costs. It's a really crucial tool for identifying price points that would definitely lead to losses, or understanding how many units you need to sell at a certain price just to cover your base.
Are there limitations, though?
Yeah, a key limitation is that basic break-even analysis often assumes your quantity demanded is relatively fixed at different prices, or it doesn't explicitly model demand changes. It focuses primarily on cost recovery rather than broader market dynamics or achieving specific profit goals beyond zero. But it's still a vital first step.
We've certainly seen major companies, you mentioned Boeing earlier, intensely focusing on cost cutting. Why is that so critically important in today's environment?
Well, in today's increasingly price-sensitive global markets, controlling costs is just paramount. It's often not just about boosting profits, it's about basic survival and maintaining market share.
Right.
Things like innovations in labor-saving technology, big quality initiatives that reduce waste and rework, finding more efficient manufacturing processes, these all directly lead to reduced costs. And those cost reductions then give a company options. They can either offer more competitive, lower prices to gain share, or they can simply increase their profit margins on existing prices. Both are vital for staying competitive.
Okay, so pricing isn't just about demand and costs in a vacuum. It sounds like it's influenced by a whole ecosystem of factors.
Yeah.
What are some of the most critical forces shaping these decisions that marketers really need to keep top of mind?
You're absolutely right. It's definitely a complex dance. It's not just two variables. Beyond demand and cost, these pricing decisions are significantly impacted by, well, a bunch of things. Let's try to break them down. Maybe 8 key areas.
Let's try.
First, organizational and marketing objectives. Your prices absolutely must align with what your company is trying to achieve overall. Are you trying to maximize market share? You might price aggressively low, maybe even your cost initially. Are you trying to project exclusivity and high quality? You'll likely price high.
Makes sense. Objectives drive strategy. What's next?
Second, related to that, are the types of pricing objectives. Are you focused on survival, profit maximization, market share, or maybe even just raising cash quickly? Each specific objective suggests different pricing approaches.
Okay.
Third, costs, which we've discussed.
Sure.
A firm has to analyze all its costs, fixed, variable, the whole picture. Now, sometimes strategically, a company might sell below cost for a short time, like a loss leader to attract customers.
Like give them the door.
Exactly. But long term, you have to cover costs to be sustainable. Fourth, the other marketing mix variables. Price doesn't exist alone. It profoundly influences how people perceive your product, like we said. High price often signals high quality. It impacts your distribution strategy. Premium products might only be found in selective high-end stores, while a low-priced item probably needs intensive, widespread distribution to sell enough volume.
Okay.
And it shapes your promotion. Bargain prices get shouted in ads, while a premium item might rely more on subtle personal selling or PR. They all have to work together.
Okay, that's 4. Halfway there.
Fifth, channel member expectations. If you sell through intermediaries, distributors, wholesalers, retailers, you have to consider their needs. What profit margin do they expect? Do they need discounts for buying in bulk or paying early? Do they require support, like training or cooperative advertising funds? These expectations add to your costs and have to be factored into your final price.
Right. Got to keep the partners happy. Number 6.
Sixth is customers' interpretation and response. This is huge. How do customers actually perceive and react to your price? Sometimes, like we talked about with prestige goods, a higher price is interpreted positively, maybe signaling higher quality, especially when quality is hard to judge beforehand.
Yeah, and this is where reference prices come in.
Exactly. Reference prices are critical here. There's the internal reference price, which is what a buyer thinks a product should cost based on their own past experience or memory.
Boy.
And then there's the external reference price, which is a comparison price provided by someone else, like a retailer showing a compare at price, or a manufacturer's suggested retail price.
Like when Overstock.com shows you that compare at price.
Precisely. That's a classic external reference price. And customers themselves fall into different categories based on how they react. You've got value-conscious buyers who carefully assess both price and quality. You have price-conscious buyers who are primarily driven by finding the lowest possible price. And then prestige-sensitive customers who are drawn to products that signify prominence and status. Think back to Louis Vuitton again.
Okay, number 7.
Seventh is competition. You absolutely have to know what your competitors are charging, but it's more than just knowing the number. The actual structure of your market matters immensely. Is it a monopoly? One seller. An oligopoly, a few dominant players. Monopolistic competition, many sellers with differentiated products. Or perfect competition, many sellers, identical products.
And why does that structure matter so much?
Because it dictates how much pricing flexibility you really have. In an oligopoly, for instance, if one major airline dramatically cuts fares, the others are almost forced to respond, often leading to lower profits for everyone. In perfect competition, you basically have no pricing power. You're a price taker.
Got it. And the last one, number 8.
Eighth, and definitely not least, are legal and regulatory issues. Governments can and do step in. They might impose price controls in certain situations. And there are specific laws that prohibit certain pricing practices. Things like price fixing, which is basically collusion, agreements among competitors to set prices that's illegal. So is deceptive pricing, like making false or misleading claims about price reductions or comparisons. That's why those debates around hidden airline fees, for example, are so important for consumer transparency.
Yeah.
There are also laws against price discrimination, charging different prices to different buyers for the same product if it injures competition. Though some price differences are legal if they're based on actual cost differences in serving those customers, or if you're just meeting a competitor's lower price in good faith. And finally, there's predatory pricing, sometimes called undercutting. That's where you set prices unreasonably low, maybe even below your own costs, with the specific intent of driving competitors out of business so you can raise prices later. That's illegal too, although proving the intent can sometimes be difficult.
Wow. So what does this all mean for real companies navigating these waters? How does a brand like, say, United Airlines handle legal constraints when facing intense pressure from low-cost carriers? Or maybe a company like Bumblebee Foods in the highly competitive, often commodity-like canned tuna market.
Yeah, they walk a very fine line. United, for example, has to be incredibly strategic. They can match low-cost competitors' fares on certain routes, but they have to be careful not to cross into territory that could be construed as predatory pricing, which could bring serious legal trouble from regulators or lawsuits.
Right.
And Bumblebee Foods, operating in a market with many rivals and often dealing with retailers who have a lot of power, must ensure all their pricing strategies, their promotional allowances, their discount structures, everything strictly adhered to anti-price fixing and anti-discrimination laws like the Robinson-Patman Act. It's a constant balancing act between being fiercely competitive and staying compliant with a complex set of rules.
Okay, that makes sense. Finally, let's maybe shift gears just slightly. Let's talk about pricing specifically for business-to-business markets. B2B, does that work differently than selling to individual consumers like you and me?
Yes, B2B pricing often involves its own unique set of considerations, especially around discounts and logistics. There are several types of discounts that are really common in business markets.
Like what?
Well, first, you have trade discounts, sometimes called functional discounts. These are given to intermediaries like wholesalers or retailers, basically as payment for performing certain functions, like selling, storing inventory, or providing customer support. Then there are quantity discounts, which are huge in B2B. You offer a lower per unit price for buying in larger volumes. These can be cumulative, meaning the discount applies to purchases over a given period, sort of like a loyalty reward, or non-cumulative, which applies only to a single large order. The goal is obviously to incentivize bigger orders, which helps your production planning and often lowers your per unit selling costs.
Right, encourages bulk buying.
Exactly. Then you have cash discounts for prompt payment. The classic example is 210 net 30.
I've seen that on invoices. What does it mean again?
It means the buyer can take a 2% discount off the invoice price if they pay within 10 days. Otherwise, the full amount is due within 30 days. This isn't just a small thing. It's a powerful tool for the seller to improve their cash flow significantly by getting paid faster.
Okay. Any others?
Yeah, sometimes you see seasonal discounts for buying goods out of season, which helps the seller smooth out production throughout the year. And allowances, which are concessions in price to achieve some desired goal, like a trade-in allowance Apple might offer when you buy a new Mac and trade in your old one.
Got it. And what about shipping costs in B2B? That seems like it could be a big factor.
Absolutely. Geographic pricing, how transportation costs are handled, is critical. There are several common approaches. FOB factory pricing means the buyer essentially pays all the shipping costs from the seller's factory. Title transfers at the factory.
Okay. Buyer handles freight.
FOB destination means the producer absorbs the shipping costs and title transfers at the buyer's location. Seller handles freight. Uniform geographic pricing, sometimes called postage stamp pricing, means everyone pays the same delivered price, regardless of their location. Simple, but maybe unfair to nearby customers. Zone pricing sets different uniform prices for different geographic zones based on distance. And freight absorption pricing, where the seller absorbs some or maybe even all of the actual freight costs for a particular customer or region. This is often used strategically to penetrate distant markets or match prices of competitors who are located closer to the customer.
Okay, one last B2B concept. Transfer pricing. What's that about?
Transfer pricing. This comes up inside larger companies. It's the price charged when one unit or division within a company sells a product or service to another unit within the same company.
Like selling components from one division to an assembly division?
Exactly. The price needs to be determined somehow. Common methods include using the actual full cost of producing the item, maybe adding a standard markup or using a market-based cost what the item would sell for on the open market. The key challenge here is setting a transfer price that feels fair and motivates both the selling and the buying divisions appropriately without distorting decisions for the company as a whole.
Wow. Okay, that was quite the deep dive into pricing concepts, really, from the absolute basics of value and profit all the way through elasticity, competition costs, and navigating all those legal and B2B nuances. It's crystal clear that pricing is far, far more than just slapping a number on a product.
Indeed, it is. And for anyone building a career in business, especially, for you students at App State's College of Business listening in, truly understanding these concepts isn't just about passing a course or acing an exam. It's really about gaining a critical lens, a way to view almost every single strategic decision you'll ever encounter or make in the business world. Price is just this incredibly dynamic, powerful tool. It shapes marketing behavior, it drives competitive strategy, and ultimately, it determines a company's success or failure. It's fundamental to understanding how businesses operate, survive, and hopefully thrive in any economy.
So, maybe as you all continue your studies and start looking towards your future careers, here's something to think about. In this world that's becoming more and more transparent, more globally competitive, how will future marketers strike that delicate balance? The balance between the relentless, necessary drive for profit and the undeniable psychological impact of price, and that ever-present customer demand for perceived value.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is. It's a question that's going to continue to challenge and probably excite businesses for many, many years to come.